How do you feel about change?
These young people are going to be the future that's going to be running this country.
We can do this, we must do this, and together we will do this.
Get involved with organisations like the Salford Foundation if you're not already. Together we can all level the playing field.
Welcome to Salford Foundation's Social Mobility Conference here at the BBC. My name is Ayaan Syed.
And I'm Mia Arnold. I hope you all had a good journey to get here today. Isn't this venue just amazing to be in? The views are very impressive.
This is home of BBC Sport, BBC Breakfast, Blue Peter, and it's a building full of people who are fulfilling their dreams and going places in their career. So what better place could there be to hold a conference about social mobility? Stick with us for the whole morning, and not only you will learn a lot, we'll make sure you get a great lunch before you leave too. My name is Ayaan Syed, as I said before, and we're going to be hosting this amazing event for you guys. I want to pursue a career in medicine, and it almost seems so surreal how far we've come and how fast we've grown. Bear in mind, we had lockdown in year 6 and in year 7. And with one of Salford Foundation's programs, we were able to gain the skills we needed for in the last year of high school.
But we'll get into that in more detail a bit later on. I'm Mia, and I want to go into a completely different career to Ayaan. I want to pursue a career in musical theatre. I've always had a passion for it, but I've never believed in myself enough. A few years ago, I definitely wouldn't be on this stage talking to you right now. But anyway, enough about us. Our theme for today is young people and the future of work. We're going to hear from some amazing keynote speakers and about what this theme and social mobility means to them and in their role.
We're also going to get an insight into some of the projects and programs that Salford Foundation runs to help young people develop their aspirations and skills and hear from people who have been involved with them. Plus, we'll explore how you and your company can help this generation of young people for their future in work.
Hopefully, we'll also have some fun along the way with some good coffee and food. There'll be opportunities to network and talk to each other. Plus, we're going to have a bit of audience participation and interaction.
At regular intervals during the morning, we're going to be using Slido. So we get to hear your thoughts and opinions. Hopefully, if you've already scanned your QR code and you're all ready and set to go. If not, please do that now. We thought we'd start with a gentle opener and form a bit of a word cloud. So in just a couple of words, what does social mobility mean to you? We've got 5 people typing. That's exciting. Look at that. Opportunity, fair opportunity.
Access. Oh,
Opportunity, wow. Got equity as well. It's pretty.
I think opportunities has been repeated a lot around the room.
Opportunity, got a bit of inclusiveness, growth, opportunities. Opportunity is the big one. Fair opportunity, opportunities, opportunity. When is opportunity going to stop? So thank you for sharing all your thoughts and ideas. You know, honestly, that's a great starting point for this morning. We're going to hand over to our first keynote speaker in just a minute. But before we do that, let's tell you a little bit about Salford Foundation. We're a charity that has been helping young people in Greater Manchester to build better futures for over 30 years.
We're seriously ambitious about social mobility and making sure every young person has the opportunity to reach their full potential, especially those who face additional barriers or disadvantage. But we can only do that effectively if we're working in partnership with employers, as it's you who hold the keys to opportunities. So, if you weren't sure why you're here, that's the reason. We need you. And in case you're not familiar with what Salford Foundation does to help young people prepare for their futures in work across Greater Manchester, here's a quick introduction.
That was a very good video, actually. Our school was featured in that, so you can tell how much Salford Foundation has helped us. Before we get to that, we know that one of the people you would have been looking forward to hear from today is the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Unfortunately, Andy has been called to a meeting with the Prime Minister today, so he can no longer be with us. We can't lie, we're a bit gutted. However, let's be honest. If I got the chance to meet with the PM, I'd prioritise that over anything. We're important too, but I guess we know our pecking order. So instead, here to share some of the thoughts Andy wanted to share with us this morning, please put your hands together and welcome to the stage CEO of Salford Foundation, Phil East.
Thank you, Ayaan. Thank you, Mia, for a great start to our morning. As Ayaan has said, unfortunately, the PM is with, Andy is with the Prime Minister today. There is a new council of the nations and regions, and a meeting's been called at relatively short notice. So he sends his apologies, and his office does too. So I find myself reluctantly cast in the role of, I guess, the supply teacher, or the football sub for today. And I just hope that I perform better than Andy's beloved Everton are doing just at the moment. Andy clearly gets asked to speak at many events on many different topics because of the breadth of his brief and his responsibilities. It's particularly disappointing that he's not with us today, because I know that he's genuinely extremely passionate about this theme of social mobility. As any of you who've heard him speak recently, I'm sure will know, as I did last week. So because of that, Andy's office has shared with me his briefing notes for today and what he wanted to say to us. So I'm going to try and distill that and share some of that kind of thinking with you this morning. We have a new Labour government, and I guess the starting point would be that inheritance of a new Labour government is very challenging. The state of the public finances, the amount that needs to be kind of fixed or addressed in our society. But Andy would say very clearly that's context. That is absolutely not a preamble to make excuses or to put a low bar on our ambitions or what we commit to achieve going forward in the next few years. The first of Labour's 5 missions is to kickstart economic growth, making sure that every part of the country and everyone, not just a few, are better off. And if there's going to be a strategy to grow the economy, we absolutely can't do that without a laser-like focus on people and skills. It's got to focus on the generation that's about to become economically active, our young people who are the future of work. When I heard Andy speak last week, he feels that Greater Manchester's time has come, that we are genuinely on the cusp of something very exciting for Greater Manchester in a way that hasn't been the case probably for some generations. And Andy tells an interesting personal story. He grew up and he became a young adult in the late 1980s. And for him and for his peer group, Andy will say that the opportunities were not here. If you wanted to get on, you had to get out. And then what started was the city centre's revitalisation in the early 2000s, and the infrastructure that's kind of coming around that to really revitalise Manchester into a thriving city centre. But if ever things were really aligned, and set right for the people of Greater Manchester to prosper and thrive, that time is now. I guess for Andy, that's because there is political power, but also there is political will. And there is the opportunity genuinely to do things differently. Locally produced solutions which truly understand and speak to our local context. Gone are the days, we hope, when ideas were dreamed up in ivory towers in Westminster and then were sent on a slow train to Greater Manchester without context, without understanding our lived reality, our context. And the thing which Andy would want to, I think, bang on about today in particular, would be the MBAC, the Manchester Baccalaureate. One of Andy's bugbears, he will say, is that in this country, if you don't want to go to university, generally there's not been a pathway for you. Many people do want to go to university. We've heard some amazing aspirations already today, and that is the right route for many young people. But for many others, it isn't. And we've not been good in this country at valuing vocational routes and vocational jobs as well. And that's Andy's vision for the MBAC. But that will change. There will be a pathway that will be built out in the coming years, an employer-led solution to fill the skills gap and maximise the potential and productivity of all young people in Greater Manchester. Focused on 7 key growth sectors, with over 120 higher technical qualifications and higher level apprenticeships lined up, leading to thousands of jobs, and driven and guided by an employer integration board, and already over 75 large employers signed up to do that. And clearly it's not just about business, education, stakeholders, fundamentally young people at the centre of our thinking and our planning, having their say and telling us what they need and what works for them. Andy would say he's an optimist. And when I heard him speak last week, he was quite clear that, it's a difficult gig in terms of where we are at the starting line. We need hope at the moment as well. But he's also a realist and would want to focus on what can we actually achieve? What do we have the power and influence to do now? What's in our gift? And I'm sure he would look around the room and say that it's the grit, determination, commitment of people like you, which makes him feel justified right now here in Greater Manchester to cast himself as a realistic optimist. We can together build a bright future for young people and their future in work. We can do this. We must do this. And together we will do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. That was really inspirational, and you've set the bar high in terms of how ambitious we should be with and for young people. So, how do young people start out on a journey that connects them to their future career? For most, it starts with experiences. You need to meet people who are enthusiastic and passionate about what they do for a living. You need an insight into what people actually do when they go to work, what careers are out there, which sectors of our economy are thriving and growing, and what are the rules when you're at work, what are you expected to wear? Are there going to be people in that workplace who look and sound like me?
It's a pleasure to welcome to the stage Sarah Johnson from the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. Sarah has volunteered loads for us. She's going to have a conversation with Tara from BDO, Hamam from Capgemini, and Mohammad from BNY about how they've been involved and what it's really like to be a business volunteer, spending a few hours in school or college. Please welcome them to the stage.
Morning, everybody. So my name's Sarah Johnson, Head of Commercial within the Department of Science and Technology, and a little bit of a Salford Foundation superfan. Some people might say never shut up about it. Jason might be happy about that, and the team at Salford Foundation might be happy about that. A lot of people do say to me what motivates me. And I just wanted to say that in 2019, I was volunteering at a pupil referrals unit in Salford via the Salford Foundation. A pupil referral unit, for those of you who don't know, is for children that cannot cope in the mainstream school environment. This young girl had been through unimaginable childhood trauma that I'm happy to talk to people about later on. She was amazing. She was an inspiration. She was getting up every day, and she is absolutely the same person who continues to drive me forwards 5 years on in relation to anything social mobility or social value. Right, let's introduce the panel. I've gone on enough. In the style of blind date, number one, what's your name? Wait, no, I'm joking. Tara, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So I'm Tara Johnson. I'm a senior manager based at BDO in Manchester. And Salford Foundation is something that we as a firm have supported for a number of years now. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not related, by the way. Hamam, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can. So my name is Hamam Rouiched, and I'm a consultant at Capgemini. And similarly, we've basically been involved in the past 2 years, mainly with the Salford Foundation, and we love working with them and look forward to working more with them as well.
Super, thank you. Mohammad?
Hi, I'm Mohammad Sufyan from BNY. I work at the sanctions team at Bank of New York here in Manchester. And I'm the volunteering engagement manager working alongside Salford Foundation, one of our charity partners.
Thank you. Mohammad, why do you feel experiences are important for young people? Whether that's an experience in encountering an employer or visiting a workplace?
Yeah, so we were talking about what social mobility means to you, and what's the main thing that came up? It was opportunities. So that's one of the things that it's really important to show what opportunities there are, what opportunities that we have. For example, a lot of people that did the workplace visits, one of the people even came and joined our work experience week. And then from there, they even joined our apprenticeship program. So this is a real opportunity to progress. And one way to progress could be academically, if university is the right decision for somebody, or if a career could be the right decision for somebody. And these are the two things that I really believe that would be the best way for somebody to climb the social ladder, per se.
Super, thank you. Tara, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah, of course. I think for me, and probably everyone in this room can attest to the same thing, that starting a new job is just really daunting. There's just so much to think about. And I think if we can get young people from schools and colleges to come out to the workplace and see what that looks like in real life, and experience kind of what a workplace looks like, the different departments, the number of people that you might encounter, it's just really helpful to kind of knock down that barrier of not knowing what that expectation is and remove some of those initial nerves. And I think for me, on one of my experiences as well, it was kind of really eye-opening, because just in passing in conversation with the young person, they'd mentioned they'd never been into Manchester city centre before, because for them it was just unaffordable for them and their family. And I think something that I know personally, I take for granted, just going into the city centre either for work or for meeting friends and stuff. And I think the fact that we can provide that opportunity as a workplace is just really key, and something that we should all be doing.
And it's all about relatability, right? Isn't
Absolutely.
it? It's like, you're actually not that different to, like, I'm talking to the students here. You're not that different to me. Just like, I came in here today and thought, this is pretty smart. But, people come into my office and say that, but it's about showing these students that your journey is not that different to mine. And sometimes I think that really helps with the motivation to sort of say, I've been there and I know what it's like. I know I'm old now, but one day, it was like that. Hamam, can you answer that question as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that this highlights to me as well, in terms of providing them experiences, whether that is them visiting our workplace or us going to their schools and giving them an insight as to what we are like as a business. I think the best way, or the way I perceive it, is it's almost like being hooked up to a time machine where you have a number of possibilities. So what we're doing here is we're trying to give them a glimpse of what their future could potentially look like. So instead of, for example, them thinking about it from a theoretical perspective, now they've got an actual experience that they can base their understanding on, and therefore hoping in future that it can motivate them forward and to pursuing the future that they want.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to come on to the next question, and Hamam, I'm not picking on you, but you are down for this one.
Okay.
So, as someone who has volunteered time and time again with activities which provide young people experiences, why do you keep coming back?
It's mainly due to two main reasons, I would say. The first one, I view myself as a direct benefactor of social value and volunteering. When I came here to the UK first in 2005, I entered secondary school at year 7 with not even a semblance of familiarity with the English language. And as part of that, what the school did, they hooked me up with a volunteering organization which provided a translator which sat with me in every single lesson. So that's, English, science, mathematics. I had a translator sitting next to me, and they used to translate what the teacher would say and also translate the exercises that were on the sheet. So as part of that, I think that helped me significantly in progressing, first of all, my English language skills, as well as my education, which I completed by completing A-levels and then subsequently completing my bachelor's, and then after that I did a master's as well. And all that I pay great respect to that volunteering organization that worked with me. And the second part as well is I think it benefits everyone here to look at volunteering as a national interest. And the reason why I say that, and I'm not exaggerating here, these young people are going to be the future that's going to be running this country. And all of us are going to get old, all of us are going to hit our pension age, and then we're going to be benefiting from them directly. So it'll be them entering the civil service. We're talking about Department of Education, we're talking about NHS, we're talking about, UK highways, all that kind of stuff. And the more qualified and the more professional these young people will be in future, the more we will directly benefit from that as well. So I really want to push that message on, and the way I can do that is by embodying the volunteering mindset and going out and volunteering each time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Another thing to say on that is I'm probably going to get into trouble on this, but if you are doing contracts or you want to raise up your game on your social value, stop looking nationally. Look nationally a little bit, but look at the organisations where your offices are based. Look locally. That's where you can have the impact. We've got some great students here today. On a local basis, you can actually see the difference you're making. Whereas if you're pumping money into a large national organisation, how often are you seeing that, your return on that? I've stood up contracts where the deliverables are there for Salford Foundation, and that's important. And I can see what we've done. You can't always see that on a national level. That was a really good answer, by the way, Tara. No pressure. What is your experience of setting up volunteering opportunities amongst colleagues?
Yeah. So I think for me, sometimes it can be difficult. We appreciate the economy and things at the moment. Workplaces are, really, really busy. Everyone's got so much to do. And obviously the citizenship and CSR elements are in addition to that. So it can be tough to get people to engage with it. But me being me, I don't shut up about it. So, I'm just constantly banging that drum to get people involved.
And do they help with that? Does Salford Foundation help?
Absolutely. So it definitely makes my life a lot easier. So obviously Jason and Phil and the wider team are just brilliant, because whenever we've got Salford Foundation opportunities, they kind of take the hard work out of it. And I think that's one of the things that makes people more likely to volunteer. So they do kind of all the preparation, and they help with anything. So if people need to kind of prepare in advance of either the interview days or CV tasks and opportunities, they just provide people with the support that they need, any kind of preparation materials. They do all that in advance. And it just, I think sometimes, even for us, we've lived a work environment and we can get nervous about what to expect. And I think it takes that away from people, if they've got kind of the preparation in advance, they don't go into the opportunity then feeling nervous. They know exactly what to expect. Everything's kind of done to support them. And then Salford Foundation are there on the day as well to just assist anybody if that's needed. So, I can't thank Salford Foundation enough for everything they do to support us, to then give back based on our skill set.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mohammed, I've left you waiting ages. I'm so sorry. Sorry, everybody. How easy has it been connecting volunteers in with providing activities which promote experiences in the workplace and the marquee style events that you arrange? Yeah,
so anybody who works in an office behind a desk would know how easy it is to convince colleagues to take a break from the screen. We've got my site leader here and other people from BNY, and they would know that I'm at every event. I probably never do my day job, but but yeah. So one thing I have realized is when we set up events, when we send people out to offsite events, they're getting real professionals from our workplace. And they're getting real people who have dealt with things like real interviews, who are helping with mock interviews, real people who are helping with CVs and, giving them confidence. So in terms of the marquee events, people coming into our offices, we're showing them around. You may have seen me on the video.
You mentioned that twice.
Yeah, so then they come and they get an exposure to the workplace. They see what it's like, to have a real career, to see what it's like to be a professional. And that's, a really big thing in their sense, and they get opportunities to present like we're doing now. Being young and having to present is really daunting. Even being here right now is quite difficult. Anyone can imagine, but that confidence is really key. If you can build a little bit of confidence, that's going to go such a long way to help somebody, go forward in their career, in their academic life, and whatever opportunities that they get their hands on. And that's been the main thing that I've been passionate about.
Thank you. Do you want me to mention that pay rise now?
Please.
Coffee. Okay, right. So this question is one that I sort of alluded to earlier, and I'm going to start on this one. What has been the most memorable experience volunteering Salford Foundation? So I signed up to do 6 one-hour sessions of mentoring at this pupil referral unit in Salford, and I went in and thought, this will be dead easy, this. Well, these children have been through a lot of childhood trauma, and there was this girl that she had a head on the desk for the whole lesson. We get to the end session. We get to the end of the session, and I say, right, you lot, you're your only barrier to success. I thought it was dead cool saying that, it was very buzzy. And she put her hand up. She'd not spoke all session, so I was shocked. I said, yeah, what is it? Dead excited. And she went, you rang about that. And I said, okay. And she said, well, I was locked in a basement at the age of 10 for 3 years. And me and my mum escaped, and we walked across Europe, and then we came in. But my mum was really poorly at the end of that. So me and my mum were separated because she can't look after me anymore. And now I live in a children's home. And this is why I come here. And I just want to tell you, that is the most memorable. And I know that's hard hitting, and we've had a laugh today. But that is the type of kids you are reaching. You might not know. They might look like everybody else in the room. Hamam, if you'd have met him today, I'm blown away by your story. I really am. You know what? You are such an inspiration. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't come here. So there's hundreds of children in Greater Manchester, like Hamam, like that student that I met. And that's what, that's my most memorable experience. Tara, can I ask you the same question?
Of course. I think I alluded to it in the bit that I was talking about earlier. I think one of my most memorable ones, and it was quite a few years back now, but it does stick with me, was the NCS experience, where the young group of young children came into our office and we did various activities with us, and they just got really passionate and really involved throughout each of those. But it was that comment from the child where they'd literally said, I've never been into Manchester City Centre before, and it really just stuck with me about, as I say, something that we, kind of just take for granted on a day-to-day basis. It's stuff like that I just think we're doing so much good, but actually I just get so much back from it as well. So it really does work both ways. So I think that's one of my most memorable opportunities.
Great, thank you. I'm mixing it up a bit now. Mohammad, do you want to go next?
Yeah, of course. So I was talking about confidence, and one thing is that, these people come into the workplace, and we were talking about the marquee style events that we set up at our workplace. So you can see at the beginning of the events, you have students who are really in their shell. Maybe they'll have a mixture of schools, and throughout the day, you'll see their confidence growing. They'll they'll interact with others. It's great that we have people from Salford Foundation who with us at the events, who help everybody engage. We have our volunteers who, keep everybody interactive with everything. Some of these people I've heard, there may be students who have never even set foot in the city centre, which is quite shocking. So like you were saying, we take a lot of things for granted. So these are the kind of things that I was trying to focus on when we were doing the marquee style events, so we can build up their confidence, etc. So one of the really proud moments of my career, apart from everything that I have achieved otherwise, apart from volunteering, has been, in terms of volunteering, has been when I was asked to be a volunteering engagement manager. I was asked by one of my colleagues here, and then I just took the opportunity straight away. I didn't hesitate. I was like, definitely, this is something I'd love to be involved with. So definitely, that's been a really proud moment for myself.
Super, thank you. Hamam?
Yeah, I think for myself, the most memorable is a STEM day we basically organized with the Salford Foundation. I think it was last year. And we managed to reach out to an entire year group. So I think it was in excess of 150 students. And I think what what really keeps me going and what I really enjoyed and why that day was so important to myself is just to see the amount of fun the kids had. That year 7 class was absolutely amazing. Everyone's just laughing. We're doing all these different activities with giving them, entry level information around digital workplace, so on and so forth. But we didn't take it seriously. We're interacting with them, and it's just seeing them have fun, seeing their smiles, seeing that through such minimal effort, I can have such a large impact. Can't be bought.
Brilliant.
Can't be bought. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks to our lovely panel, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sarah, Tara, Hamam and Mohammad. That was really inspiring to listen to. Hopefully by now you're convinced that there's a generation of young people out there that need you and you want to help. But let's be honest, you've got a business to run. You need to make a profit. You need to make a profit. You need a high-performing, engaged and successful workforce driving the success of your business. Social mobility makes sense from a social responsibility angle, but does it also make good business sense? Can social mobility grow the next generation of the workforce to drive the economy and the success of your business?
For a different perspective on social mobility, we're delighted to welcome our second keynote speaker to the stage, Sean Turner. He is Global Head of Issuer Service Operations and Manchester Site Executive for BNY.
Oh, I'm glad that wasn't my bit.
Hired in 2005 in Manchester as part of an apprenticeship and early careers program during his almost 2 decades, Sean has worked across multiple businesses and disciplines within the firm. In 2016, Sean was named Bank of the Year in Greater Manchester, Made in Manchester Awards. He was responsible for 2,000 people over 16 locations across the globe. BNY are also one of the longest standing supporters enabling Salford Foundation's work in this area through its grant program. So please put your hands together and welcome Sean to the stage.
Thank you. I'm leaving with 3 actions. 1, a sexier job title. 2, Mohammed, how much work do you do on a day-to-day basis? And 3, that pay rise, right? Morning, everyone. So it's an honour to be here to give my kind of personal insight into social mobility. I'm Sean. I won't repeat my job title, it's already been done. But I'm really proud to be here because I have a personal connection to social mobility, but I also wanted to give a kind of business perspective as well. I grew up with 5 siblings in a 2-bedroom council house in Lee. I chose not to go to university, not because I didn't have the ability or the grades, but because the prospect of the thousands of pounds of debt and the prospect of where that would lead was too daunting for me and my family at that time. And so instead, I began my career as an apprentice and at BNY in 2005. And I remember walking through the doors as one of the first 50 employees with the most incredible anxiety. Over the following 20 years, I've really had the opportunity to get a degree sponsored by the firm. I've traveled the world extensively. I've experienced new cultures. I've moved through the organization and developed new skills to reach my position today where I lead a whole site and I run a global operation that's $1 billion business. I'm really proud of that. And for a long time, working at a firm and being that boy from a council estate in Lee, I was a bit embarrassed of my background. The Americans that I dealt with struggled with my Lee accent, which has probably evolved a little bit over time. They certainly didn't understand what a steak bake was from Greg's. But what I recognize is it was that background that enabled me to progress, that hustle, determination, and the fight to succeed. So now, rather than being embarrassed about my upbringing, I take every opportunity I can to talk about it. And even though I have experienced chronic imposter syndrome, even now, I think I needed 3 coffees just to match the energy of Mia and Ayaan this morning. Every single day is a constant challenge, and I constantly go back to that 18-year-old who walks kind of through the door. But it's motivated me to succeed and just to kind of keep striving. But when we invest in people from different backgrounds, we invest in diverse talents and cultures that reflect society. And when our workforce can marry with our client, that's such a wonderful blend. Our client base is diverse in itself, and our workforce has to reflect that. 51% of the 120,000 students in Manchester typically stay and live in Manchester once they've graduated. And so we know that Greater Manchester is diverse. We know that our workforce is diverse. But when you look at those untapped potentials from those outlier towns, when you tap into those opportunities, you actually create a really wonderful experience. You get homegrown talent that's smart, you get a loud voice in the room, and you get a cross section of society all really striving to kind of succeed personally but develop a company. It's imperative we leverage fresh viewpoints to drive innovation and growth. They have ideas and they look at some of our processes and they think, why do you do it like that? Half the students that we bring into our office to do intake days, they don't really know what a fax machine is, never mind what it does or what it looks like. And so they question things and they challenge things and they ask questions that maybe is a new perspective we hadn't considered before. So not only does supporting social mobility make sense from a business perspective, but it also presents a perfect opportunity to give back to the local community, breaking down the cycle of disadvantage and elevating employability and enterprise in Greater Manchester. So my first experience of a workplace was during the interview process, and my mum gave me a little bottle of Calms and my dad said, ask them if they can do me alone. That was the only advice I got from my parents. So I was intimidated walking to the interview. I was a nervous wreck. You have to give people time to become confident and to build their own self-esteem. My organization saw something in me. They took a chance. And that loyalty now that we have for each other is transcended a couple of decades. We give our employees 3 paid days off every year to go and volunteer in a charity. And that charity also gets an equivalent of their salary. So there's a financial and a skill benefit for the charity and our partner. And we partnered with Salford Foundation now for almost 20 years. We offer volunteers for our employees to help young people become workforce ready. I think that's the key thing. And that's regardless of their background, their education, or their state of mind. It's vital we continue to invest in people and provide opportunities for social mobility. From my own experience and working at a company like mine, those things are scalable. Some of the things that we're learning from Manchester and those experiences and those benefits, we're sharing with the global platform. We've never been in a better spot, quite frankly, as a firm in Manchester. And most recently, our CEO flew into town and he sent one email after his visit, and that was, wow, Manchester is just awesome. That confidence when he's seeing the talent, when he's seeing what we're doing in the community, when he's seeing the skyscrapers, I think there's 50 more skyscrapers in planning permission or approved. Like, this Manchester City is growing and it's awesome. And people are standing up and they're recognizing that. And we're here to kind of support everyone in our communities to take advantage of it. When you saw my name on the docket, you probably thought I was a big anonymous banker, but actually I'm a guy from Lee who suffers with imposter syndrome and has hustled for 20 years to try and make sure that I give my family a good future. So the things you're talking about resonates with me really, really personally. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for the lessons we're learning so far, and I really look forward to the rest of today. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. That was great and has given us loads of food for thought. If young people are going to be grown and developed to be the next generation of the workforce, as Sean has suggested, they need to move on from having experiences which inspire them and develop their aspirations. The next stage has to be about skills. What do you actually need to know and be able to do in order to move into work successfully? And that's about moving beyond the stuff you get taught through the curriculum at school and college.
Now we're going to invite Julie Baker, Careers Advisor at Irlam Cadishead Academy, to the stage and discuss how young people develop skills for working life at school. Please put your hands together and welcome her to the stage.
Yes, my name, as they said, my name is Julie Baker. I'm the Careers Coordinator at Irlam Cadishead Academy. I've been working in Salford schools for nearly 25 years. Starting at Buell Hill, and then I was at the Albion Academy for 15 years, where I've met quite a few of you, and then moved to Irlam a year ago. Greater Manchester is evolving so much, and it's such an exciting place to be. I think the colleges as well, and where they're going to train, want to link with employers as well, and your employer engagement is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we ask you any questions, Julie, we would like to ask the audience, As business professionals, what skills make a young person like myself coming into your business stand out?
Thank you. My name is Michaela Marfley. I'm Head of Operations for the BBC, but I'm also a trustee and chair of Salford Foundation. The question was, what skills does a young person like you need to work in an environment like this? Can-do attitude, this energy and excitement to want to be in a working environment. We're all getting old now. It's so refreshing to have people in our teams that are really excited and engaged and want to learn new things and challenge our thinking. You know, we've got bored of doing the status quo. We need to change how we work. So, you know, the ideas and the insights that you guys share is so valuable to us.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I just want people to be willing to have a go, right? Before you get in that door, you know, Sean talked about being overwhelmed on his first day, but at least he got there and he had a go and he believed, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I think that's not strictly speaking a skill, but we do see a lot of people that, especially from more deprived backgrounds, who just don't believe that they can. So I think a skill is actually believing that you can actually just have a go. You might fail, but the chances are if you just get in there and have a go, you'll get there.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you. My name's Zara. I'm from Auto Trader and I've just recently completed the graduate programme at Auto Trader and I think I'm 9 months into role. But what I would say is just your curiosity. Just genuinely just asking loads and loads of questions, because 9 times out of 10, you know, people want to help and they want to make sure that, you know, you've got a great understanding of what's going on around you. And yeah, ultimately your experience is for you to learn. So as many questions as you ask, you know, never be afraid, because I think one thing that I always used to be scared of is, you know, oh, should I know that? Oh, I might have missed something, you know, are they going to think I'm not listening? And ultimately we're all human and sometimes I don't understand something that the first time someone's told me it. So never be afraid of asking any questions, and no question is ever, I would say, silly. You know, every question's important. So that's what I would say, your curiosity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Cole from Hiveland and Planning. We're a company of 8 people, so we're probably at the other end of the scale of some of the companies we've heard about. And for us, what we're looking for is someone to be authentic and to be themselves from the start, because that cultural fit is really important to us, especially in a small business. You know, sometimes, you know, in a big organisation, obviously you can't have a one size fits all, but certainly in small businesses, who you are authentically is important, not just for us, but for you as well, because you need to get to know us and know if we're the right fit for you. So I see interviews very much as a two-way process. So, you know, you're interviewing us just as much as we're interviewing you, because when you're getting a job, you spend a lot of time there over months, weeks, years. So that basis of, are you the right kind of people for me, is really important.
Thank you. Okay. So, Julie, in your experience, what skills do you feel students need that schools struggle to teach?
I think, yeah, in school on a day-to-day basis, the school is based on academic levels, isn't it? That you're always pushed to do your GCSEs, you have to be in your lessons. And like at the moment, I'm interviewing year 11 for their one-to-one guidance interviews before they're moving on. And I'll say to them, what skills have you obtained while you've been at school? What have you done at school that's not in the classroom and not academically based that you could bring to an employer? And sometimes they do struggle a little bit to look at your skills. But then when we've worked with organisations such as Salford Foundation, and you've been on the projects that my students have been on, they start to identify them. And by being on these projects, by going out to employers, I have been to the Bank of New York. It was very good. And by going out though and asking questions, but I think it also educates yourself, because some of you may have been to school and university, you've been working a long time, and this generation of young people is entirely different to what I was when I was young and what some of you were when you were young. Because of the age that we live in now, it's really, really different. And I totally agree with the city centre, because I'm interviewing at the moment and saying about construction, have you been to the city centre? Have you seen what's going on? And they haven't. They haven't been. They don't know what skills they need. So I think when you meet with employers, when you did the project with Fiona and the different projects that you've done, that you will learn skills that you can apply to your employment. Yeah, that you might not do in class, and it's just as important. When you apply to college and to university, they're very, very interested in your academic levels. Of course they are, but they're also interested in what else you can bring to the table. So for you two to do something like this, when you apply in the future, that's a skill that some people haven't got, and it's relatable to employability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you got any questions for us?
Yeah. Let's have a look at my sheet. So what skills as individuals do you feel you have gained from taking part in Salford Foundation's activities?
I think I should start it off. I used to be a huge procrastinator, honestly. Way before we were in lockdown. I didn't have to do anything, no homework, no teacher work, like nagging me. So when I got into high school, everything was like, I barely would do any homework on time anyway. But with the LEAP project that we did, it made me realize that, I can organize my stuff, and it's like putting all my efforts into one thing. It shows improvement. Like before the LEAP project, I don't think I could have worked in a job at all. But now I feel very organized.
I think doing a lot of the projects we've done with Salford Foundation has really helped me gain the confidence to talk to people about what I've done in life, even be up on the stage and talk about what I want to go into, what I've done. It is challenging, but I think doing the LEAP project and mock interviews, it's really helped me to be able to talk to people about myself.
Yeah, you give your gun.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as well that in the classroom, people are quiet and don't ask the questions. Yeah. But when they speak to you that's not related to school, you sometimes get a lot more out of them than we do. Yeah, because they'll open up to you and they'll say things. And some of the students that the quiet students in school, I think a good example is when we came to your bank, when I came to your bank with the Albion Academy, is that some of the students that they're just quietly getting on with it. They were the ones that were leading the activity. And you think they wouldn't have had that opportunity if they hadn't gone to an employer and been able to do that and show themselves that they're different than when they're in school and learn the skills that you were showing them at the bank and a lot of other employers.
Thank you, Julie. Can you give an example of a student that have really benefited or enhanced their skills from taking part in Salford Foundation's activities?
Yeah, there's a lot. I've worked with the Salford Foundation for nearly 15 years now over the schools, going back to Mr. Damon, wherever he is, on that residential that we shall never forget. 15 years ago, that was it wasn't us, it was the behaviour of the children. So that was a starting point, yeah. Over the years, there's been many, I think more recently, at the Albion on the LEAP project, we had some students, because we had to do a mix of students to meet employers. So we had from the very able to not so able to EAL to SEN. We had one young lady, I don't remember, Fiona, that had just come to the school from a different country. Her English and confidence wasn't that great, and she hardly ever spoke. And she came on it with another young lady that had SEN needs. And to see their growth, to see them go from not speaking to not writing in the book, to go to, by the time we got to the end of the LEAP project, they went in mock interviews with the employers and they spoke out and they spoke and they did it, and they stood in front of people and did a presentation when we did the Dragon's Den, didn't we, with employers. The employers come in, and to see that transformation, and I wouldn't think that they would have made that progress without the help of an intervention programme such as that. They would probably still be quiet and not speaking out, but it gave them that confidence. And we had one more boy in that group, didn't we? His behaviour, his siblings, were very able and gone to college, and he was the one that came, that dad was in every 2 minutes with his child. He lived across the road from school and he was always in. But that child changed around, and he realised that to be in part of that group, he had to behave, he had to engage, he had to do teamwork, he had to get on. And I saw him, and he did, and he got to the end. I'm not saying he was an angel all the time in school, but he got to the end. And I saw him last year at a maths event at one of our colleges. From there, I was in my new school now, and he had changed so much, and he was taking part, and he reflected back to what he did on the LEAP project. Thank you. Sorry, I could talk all day about careers. Sorry. Yeah.
Have you got your last question for us?
Yeah. Sorry. What's this on? So how do you feel taking part in activity throughout the time in high school has impacted other areas of your school life?
I never wanted to go into musical theatre. I had such a passion for it, but I never believed in myself to actually get up onto a stage and do the thing that I loved. But a lot of Salford Foundation's projects has helped me gain the communication and the presenting skills like this to believe in myself more. And now I want to go into it as a career, and it's crazy to think that even 2 years ago, I didn't want to do it at all. And then I did LEAP project, and it helped me go into the school production that we did. And now I want to do it at college.
Yeah, I've mentioned about procrastination. I used to be a big one. But after the Salford Foundation activities, it's just those little things like just doing homework on time that build up. It's like a domino effect. So that I've also done musical theatre with Mia, and it's just like both learning those lines. I would put it off to like at the start of the show. But now I would have learned it like months before, learned all the songs, done all the dance moves, practiced homework with my sisters, get them forced, and without their help, that procrastination would still have been within me. So all I can say is thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Big thanks to Julie for discussing that with all of us. We're really keen to help businesses understand that without social mobility, some of the skills which you want for your future workforce are not being taught, or the dots are not being connected. It's incredibly important, not just for us, but for you too. Even if you've been given access to great experiences and you've developed your skills, we have to recognize that we're not all on a level playing field. Some young people will experience additional challenges and disadvantages between their feet in a world of work. When it comes to diversity and inclusion, we have to work even harder to ensure all young people get access to what they need and the chance to fulfill their potential. In the workplace, if you can't see it, how can you be it? If you don't think that people who look or sound like you,
or who share your characteristics,
exist in a company, there are many more barriers to overcome to feel included and to be your authentic self at work. So it's time for our final keynote speaker, who's going to share some thoughts on diversity and social mobility.
Please put your hands together and welcome Nicola Crowther to the stage.
So here's the thing about compliments, okay? And I'm very interested to see if anyone can relate. When someone gives me a compliment about something I'm wearing, and granted it is normally one of my friends, the conversation usually goes along the lines of, oh, I like that skirt, Nick. Thanks, £8 Sainsbury's. I don't think it's just me who does this, right? Because there were a few nods and a few knowing glances in the room. Now, you're probably thinking, have I accidentally stumbled onto the set of Morning Live during a fashion segment? But I can assure you that this is relevant to the theme of social mobility, because I think what I've just described is a really working class thing to do, okay? It's a deflection, it's honest, and it's saying we're not too full of ourselves. And the thing I think that's crucial in that is that people only usually say things like that to people like them. So you say it when you don't think you're going to be judged for it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, not compliments and clothes, but class inequality and inclusion, and why I think those things are important and what we're doing about them here at the BBC. So I've been asked to tell you a little bit about my own background. So here are a couple of pictures of me. And I like this picture on the right particularly because I think it shows I can be a little bit irreverent at times. And also that once upon a time, I was indeed a natural blonde. I think the other thing that is striking about this picture is how young my mum is. She was 16 when I was born, and so she's sort of in her early 20s here. So I'm from a place called Rouiched in Oldham, which some of you might know, and I still live in North Manchester. I'm from a family of strong women and mainly absent men. In many ways, my family is an example of social mobility in action because my mum went back to college after having me, then she went on to uni as a mature student. She became a specialist teacher of the deaf and she now lives in New Zealand with my stepdad and I work for the BBC. So you might wonder why I'm telling you, a room full of strangers, all these quite deeply personal things about myself. And believe you me, I've asked myself the same question. But we heard it in the introductions actually from Mia and Ayaan. There's this oft quoted saying about representation that you have to see it to be it. But the issue with class is that you can't always see it. And so we have to talk about it even when it can feel awkward and hard. Class isn't a protected characteristic, okay? But class inequality is real and it's not okay. It's not okay that in 2024, the circumstances into which you are born, for better or worse, still largely dictate your life chances. It's not okay that only 10% of people in elite professions in the UK come from working class backgrounds. And it's not okay that even if you claw your way into those professions, you will be paid less than your colleagues from more advantaged backgrounds. And it's not okay that only 8% of people who work in TV are working class. And that's a number that's going down, actually, especially when you consider what a powerful medium it is and the crucial role that it plays in reflecting society back to us. I could go on, but we've only got the room till lunchtime. One of the things that we've already done is set up a network for working class staff and audiences called BBC Raised, which is an acronym because we love one of those at the BBC. And it stands for Real Action in Socioeconomic Diversity. I was one of the founder members of Raised back in 2019. We want to showcase through Raise sort of the brilliant working class talent out there, but also raise awareness of the many barriers that exist in the creative sector, especially if you don't have a financial security blanket like the bank of mum and dad, or the right sorts of cultural and social capital. And that leads me nicely on to talk about my day job as head of audience engagement. We get to chat to lots of fantastic people from ages 8 to 80 from right across the UK and with all sorts of different characteristics and backgrounds about their lives, media habits and their thoughts about BBC content, products and services. We run 3 online sessions a week and BBC staff dial in live to hear directly what our audiences have got to say. It's never dull. It is occasionally savage and it is always useful. Real people seldom sugar the pill and we are here for it. Just want to finish with a couple of things. Firstly, to the brilliant young people in the room. So particularly to Ayaan and Mia, but I know there are other young people in the room too. As you enter the world of work, I really hope that you are able to be your authentic selves, that you don't have to mask who you are or where you're from, that you can be loud and proud about your roots and confident about the value that you bring to the workforce. I wish I could promise you that the world is ready for that, but it isn't yet. We ride at dawn. However, the more we shout about it, the more it will be. And the right employers won't see the many barriers that you've had to overcome as a bad thing. On the contrary, they'll see them as an indication of your grit, your work ethic, your empathy, resilience, your ability to work as a team and to build successful relationships with other people. And to the employers in the room, we all know that there is a moral case for diversity. It's the right thing to do. But there is, and we've heard examples already, an incredibly strong business and creative case too. So do get involved with organisations like the Salford Foundation if you're not already. And hopefully together we can all level the playing field. Thank you very much for listening.
Amazing. So, hello. For those that don't know me, my name is Jason King. I am a senior team leader of our Raising Aspirations team at Salford Foundation. And I'm joined by one of our wonderful young people. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, hi, I'm Naya. I'm 16. I'm from like the Manchester area, kind of like Urmston, but I'm just very happy to be here today.
Amazing. Naya, do you want to just tell us really quickly how you've been involved with Salford Foundation?
So over the summer, it just like, Salford Foundation hadn't necessarily come to my school, but I have an auntie who kind of like had connections through her church. And she was like, oh, I think this would be really good for you. And I've been trying to kind of like grow in confidence. So I decided to just go for it, go on my own, and took part in their Summer Skills Fest and ended up having a really nice time.
Amazing. So good. We're going to hear a little bit more, hopefully, about kind of your experience. But what's amazing about this showcase is this is about your input as much as it is Naya's. So our first question that we are asking you this morning is, how do you feel about change? So that is our first question. And as you're typing that in, Naya, how do you feel about change?
I think that change can be like a very positive thing, but equally just as daunting, because sometimes it's a thing of like what your like heart wants and what you actually need. So for me, especially like, I think something that's not talked about enough amongst young people is the effect that COVID had. Like for me, I almost felt like ashamed about the fact that I struggled so much with my mental health and confidence coming back to school after COVID. Whereas actually I realised after speaking, after like many years of struggling with it, that I wasn't the only one. So I think change can be hard, but also needed, because then like I found that when I moved from high school then into college, it was very much a case of it's been hard for me to adapt, but equally it's been needed because I've been set up with so many opportunities since then, like the Summer Skills Fest. And like, for example, I danced at the Lowry. That's been such a big thing for me because I've kind of almost had the confidence to go into a new environment and gain new skills, which have been valuable to me, which I weren't necessarily taught at school. So like, I wasn't taught that like physical theatre and movement is a way that I can express myself because they were so focused on the academic side of things. So I think it can be like really exciting and new in a way that people don't realise. It can take a form. It doesn't always take a form academically. It can also be other pathways that just aren't recognised in that way. And I think as well, like, people are really hard on young people sometimes. Like, we're just children learning to be adults. And I think, especially post-COVID, we need more help with that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Naya, let's take a quick look up at the screen. How do you feel about change? Excited. I am somebody personally who gets excited by change. I know many people who are not excited about change, and we can probably think of a few around us, but nervous, scary, anxious, worried. These are some really scary feelings. And for us, when we start to think about the transition stuff we do at Salford Foundation, we're aware this change happens a lot for young people. It is one of the most transitional periods in your life as a young person. Thanks so much for adding to that question. Shall we take a quick look at the next one? Thank you so much. What do you think an 11-year-old is most worried about moving to high school? Now, let me set a bit of context for this. Can you think back to when you were moving to high school? Can you think back to what that change, that move was like? Now, at Salford Foundation, we have a programme. You might have heard it a couple of times already. It's called LEAP. And Ayaan and Mia have taken part in that over the years. And part of that is not just skills development, but it's also this idea of transition. And Ayaan and Mia did a fantastic job at learning the skills to be peer mentors to year 6 students. Change happens to all of us. And particularly for these students, it was vital to just ask questions, just be able to speak to some of their year 8 kind of counterparts already in high school. So let's have a quick look up on the screen. Making friends, absolutely something that was in there. Loneliness, homework. Will I be able to cope? I ask myself that at the moment. Unfamiliarity. Will people be nice? That sounds like a question we ask when we go into work, isn't it? Yeah, they're going to be nice. Not having friends. All these feelings are validated. These are all feelings that our young people face. Now, we have one more question for you. I'm aware of time, and I want to make sure we finish well today. But what is the one thing that you would tell your 10-year-old self that you know now? And again, while you answer that, Naya, do you want to give us a bit of a shout? You're 16?
Yeah.
And you've been a part of Skills Builder. You've gone through high school. Go on. What's a bit of your feedback?
I'd probably tell my 10-year-old self that you should grab every opportunity you have with both hands, be enthusiastic. It's not bad to be enthusiastic about what you love. Keep being who you are, being passionate. Kind of if you're different, that's okay, because every path is different. I think it's just a case of finding what works for you, or if something doesn't work for you, then kind of working into the future, where are the gaps? Where can I kind of fill in and make sure that someone in the future has what I don't have, if you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I 100% get that. I think for me as well, I'm a little bit older, just a little bit. 10-year-old me was a young person that grew up on a council estate, part of a single parent family. So I am in this category as well. And I think the thing that I never realized was everything's out there. Everything's possible. It's just about, are we willing to break through that? So let's have a quick look at some answers that have come up. Amazing. Oh, this is great. Keep learning and be curious. Always give yourself choices, but always allow yourself the space to change your mind. Make new friends. Work hard towards what you want, but you can always change paths. Shy kids getting out. Love it. Speak to your peers. It is your future. Don't focus on what others think. My latest one that I absolutely love is that you're already 10% ahead of somebody else, and you can get alongside and help. And ultimately, I think when we look at this conversation of transition, this sums up all of the showcases you have seen when it comes to the experiences we provide at Salford Foundation, the skills we provide at Salford Foundation. It's all summed up. It's all summed up in this idea of transition, this idea that through developing skills and providing new experiences, it will inevitably support this transition to the next steps. Thank you, you guys as an audience. I really appreciate you taking part. Naya, thank you so much for your input. We really appreciate it. And I will pass back over to our wonderful hosts.
Thanks to Naya and Jason. That was really interesting and informative. Change is something that we all experience, but I guess we never realize how that change managed poorly can have dire effects on the future opportunities of young people. Through providing experiences and developing skills, we can help the transition of young people to the next stage of their lives.
We've heard a lot today from those representing the interests of business and from young people. The other key stakeholders who've got skin in the game when we're discussing young people's social mobility is those involved in the world of education. We're delighted to have 3 esteemed leaders from higher education, further education and schools with us who are going to have a cosy fireside chat about the role of education in enabling the kind of social mobility we've been discussing this morning.
To begin that conversation, it's a pleasure to introduce Professor Nick Beech, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Salford. Nick was previously Vice Principal at the University of St Andrews, Provost of Dundee University, and Vice-Chancellor of Middlesex University. His academic background is in business and management, and his research focused on identity, diversity, change leadership, and learning. He has received a Lifetime Achievement Award for research from the British Academy of Management and the Exceptional Service to the Field of Management Worldwide Award from the International Federation of Scholarly Associations of Management.
That's another one I'm glad I didn't have. And he's also a thoroughly nice bloke.
Please put your hands together and welcome Nick to the stage.
So thanks for finding that bio wherever you found it from. Well done for reading it out. So Antony, so there's three of us in this part of the Cozy Fireside chat. So welcome to our living room. So we've got Kimberley Cash, who is the Vice Principal of Salford Colleges Group, and Dr. Antony Edkins, who is former head teacher, an Ofsted inspector, an education consultant, and currently leading on GM Violence Reduction Unit. And welcome both of you. And so what I hope is between us, we probably inhabit different parts of the education system. But nonetheless, there's a lot that joins us in terms of values. But I think there's some interesting questions about what joins us practically and effectively for everything we've been hearing about today. So social mobility, education, how those things link together is the key element of this. And universities are really a combination of educational organizations and businesses. So part of our operation is, of course, about students, about education. We also do a lot of research and a lot of work with businesses. And we have to operate as effective business units. And we have at least 1,300 business projects going on at any one time, major ones. And so for me, one of the interesting questions is, when we think about university, to what extent is it a kind of a uni thing, that we are separate and unique or one thing? Or are we more universal? Are we more about how we rub out our boundaries by running across them with passion and pace as much as we can and being there for everyone? And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. Like others, I'll just say a little bit about myself so that you've got a feel for that. So there's another version of the story of me. And actually so I was first in family to go to university. But that is not necessarily a big achievement for me. I mean, as you can guess, it's kind of, I found the thing that I love. I love education. I love learning. I love research. But my parents came from a quite different background. So I never knew my grandmothers. And the reason for that is that they had died quite a long time before I was born. And that tells you something about the position of women's health in the first half of the last century. And so both of my parents grew up in single parent families. Both of them grew up with long periods of unemployment in those families, and in quite difficult circumstances in many ways. But I would probably never have gone to university had I not in those days had a grant that paid, that we didn't have fees, but my fees were paid. I had money to live on, and that enabled me to get through. And I think there is a real question for us about the way that people are supported financially as well as other ways to get through university. There's a wonderful philosopher called John Rawls, and he works a lot on social justice. And he has a lovely thought experiment. And I just want to say a word about this as a way of introducing the next two speakers. And what John Rawls says is, imagine before you are a human being. Okay, so you are not yet born, and you know you're going to be born, but you've got no idea of the circumstances into which you're going to be born. So you don't know what gender you might be, you don't know what ethnicity you might be, you don't know what financial background, you don't know what country, you don't know anything at all. Okay? What does that start to tell you about the way you would want society, financing, government, and in our case, education, How would that be designed if you didn't know any of those things? And it's a really interesting question. We've had a few imaginative questions. Put yourself back to the age of 11 or 10. But this is taking yourself back to pre-zero. If you were to design an education system that worked well for everybody, wherever you come from, would it look like the one we've got at the moment? So I can see a few thoughts in the audience. We'll come back and have a little conversation about that. So get your questions ready. But with that thought in mind, Kimberley, can I turn to you first? You don't have to answer that question, but to give your reflections on what we've heard so far.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's been absolutely fantastic this morning. I love this event, and I know we've not had a formal event like this by the foundation for a while. So thank you so much for inviting me and obviously allowing me an opportunity to speak. I've been touched by everything that I've heard this morning, and I think it's really powerful to hear from our young people, but then also really key adults in the room who have the opportunity to really make a difference, and watching the showcases and looking at those transition points right down to the young, year 6. My son's actually just transitioned to high school, so I feel like I've just lived through a really important transition period myself. But I think for me personally, something that I've always, it's been a driver for me, and I suppose one of the reasons that I came into the profession that I'm in. I'm from a working class background. I struggled, and when I've just been, contributing to the poll, one of the things that I said was around, if I could tell myself anything, and go back in time, it would be around having confidence and self-belief, because I absolutely doubted myself. Huge imposter syndrome, which is what we've heard from many people today. So what is really important to me in the role that I do, working with, we have 5,000 young people at the college, and I want them to believe in themselves. I want our young people to finish with us. Many of them are only with us for 2 years. So I feel it's really important that during that short time that they're with us, they have got that self-confidence and that belief that they are as good as anybody else in any other part of this country, and they can go up against people for really prestigious next steps, whether they go on to university or go into employment. And I was really touched by some of the things that Sean shared with us. I know we have got so many young people who leave us at 18 who would absolutely feel like that. And, absolutely all credit to you that you felt that way, but you had that grit and determination because of your background. And that was a positive for you because it meant you've stuck at that. And look, how fantastic you've done. I know that there's so many people who lack that confidence, and if we don't try to do everything that we can to plug those gaps and give them those skills, those experiences, they will become neat when they leave us, and they won't have the confidence to gain a meaningful next step. So it's been absolutely fantastic to hear from people, and I think it just what we've heard today just shows what a difference by working together we can make to young people. And I know we've met recently to look at the pipeline from college to university, which is absolutely the right next step for many of our young people. But for others, it is going into work, and everything that we've heard is around how daunting that can be. Just in terms of what do you wear on your first day? What does an office space look like? We can do so much in terms of those academic skills and delivering our curriculum, but without the that collaborative approach and working closely with employers, we can't give that real life insight into what it really looks like to be in that industry. And I won't go into too much detail, but if I do have time as part of the chat, I will just give you some examples of what has worked really well for us at college that has really made a difference and added value to our learners' experience.
Thanks, Kimberley. And Antony, you've taken these various leadership roles, and you must have looked after thousands of young people in the roles that you've had. So perhaps you could share a little about that.
I'm sort of reflecting on everything, and it's been a real privilege to be here today. And I always listen to my wife, and I listen to the advice that she gives me. And
I think that was recorded, so we're okay on that.
No, but one of the things she said, for goodness sake, Antony, when you get here, don't talk about yourself. It's the employers that are interested. And so I won't. But it's been a real privilege to listen to these two young people, because you may not know the link, you may do. But the reason why I'm in the Northwest is because in 2004, I got a telephone call saying, we've got a school in a real problem. And the Magistrates Chief Inspector said, we need you to get up there and do something for a year. That was in 2004. 21 years later, I'm still here. It's been through a really rocky period, but I think what I've heard from you two is real testament to what education should be about. You're articulate, you have commanded an audience, and I genuinely wish both of you well in whatever you choose to do, because you've got something about both of you which I thought I will take away with me. And just to see you two in a school that was in a real mess, now moved to where it is now, you're real credit. So thank you, both of you, very much. And just talking about these things, I think I work for the Violence Reduction Unit. I work for Andy Burnham's office, and absolutely love the work that I do, because it's about preventing young people from getting engaged in violence. Somehow, because I've done education, done various pieces, and I go to lots and lots of different schools. Social mobility is about action. It's about the employers that are here. And that's my pitch, really, to actually say, Andy Burnham wants us to have the Manchester Baccalaureate, which is a curriculum pathway that runs parallel to the EBAC. The EBAC only supports 33% of youngsters to go to university. But there are about 67% of youngsters who are on the wrong curriculum pathway. What does that mean for us in Greater Manchester, Nick? It means we've got 160,000 youngsters on free school meals. Of those 160,000 youngsters on free school meals, a quarter of them are in hard-to-reach areas. And of those that are in hard-to-reach areas, about a quarter of those are the ones that are marginalised. They don't go to school every day, and some of them haven't been to school for 2 years. And I've been landed with the brief of saying, right, how do we get these youngsters to turn up on the MBAC programme? And so I've got a task, which is to construct the MBAC curriculum. And what I've done is I've started talking to employers, saying to the construction industry, what do you want from somebody when they're ready to work for you? And they've said, we want a young person who can estimate the number of bricks that are needed to build a garage. Okay, if that's the curriculum goal, what things have we got to put in place? Not algebraic manipulation, you'd be glad about that. Not proof by contradiction, but divisibility rules. And you don't want a situation when a customer comes to you in the retail industry and says, we desperately need somebody who understands that a £400 jacket, which I guess from your dress sense sort of fits.
I wish.
£400 jacket is reduced by 20%. We want them to be able to say the sale price is £320. So if these are the things that employers are saying, then we've got to construct a curriculum that makes sense for those young people, because it's pointless them doing things in school which are not relevant for the world of work in Greater Manchester. This all started in 2008, 2009, when someone said, do you realise the people who work in Manchester and live in Manchester earn 20% less than those who work in Manchester and live outside? So I'm really committed to the EBAC, but I want jobs, I want apprenticeships, and I want further study for these young people. I want them to go on to degree courses. And I know we've got the big blue light degree courses, University of Salford, which is absolutely great. But I've said to Nick, look, I'm after a chair, I'm after a seat at a table in order to talk to universities. I need to engage universities with this kind of curriculum, a pathway that will give us university qualifications, but linked to construction, to retail and other areas. So there's an ask, which is, I will come round over lunch and I will talk to people and I'll say, okay, what do you want from young people? And it's a serious conversation, because if we're going to construct a curriculum that's right for these young people, we've got to start thinking about what it actually means. And in the same way that the Home Office, and this is my last bit and I'll shut up then.
That's great.
The Home Office have said they want to see a 50% reduction in knife crime over the next 10 years. And that's my ultimate strategic goal. That's what I've been landed in with education within the VRU. But Where do you get a reduction in knife crime? Well, you get a reduction in knife crime and antisocial behaviour. And as a parent, my wife's gone away for the weekend. She doesn't want to be anywhere near me this on today. And I'm left with a 17-year-old daughter. Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, she's got social engagements, gatherings. And it's okay to come back at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock. But I worry. And so a reduction in knife crime is about giving young people a purpose. Taking what we've got here and saying quite simply, okay, how can we translate that into responsibility, understanding of consequences, and valuing jobs? And all right, we may do 3 or 4 jobs as a youngster before you settle down to something. But the element is, if we start saying, what are the things we can do to give young people purpose, to actually believe in what they're doing? And you can say to those young people, that's great. And they can make good decisions. They can still make some of the mistakes whilst they're growing up, but they can make good decisions for themselves and for others so that young people don't harm themselves or harm other people. Then this event is worth it. So I've got 2 asks. 1, what is it that you want 16-year-olds to achieve in your particular discipline of employment? And the other is this. If you were to sit down at the meal table tonight and ask those around the meal table, what does a 50% reduction in knife crime actually mean? What would you come back to me with? Would you be saying, this is about don't carry knives, which we know is partially effective? Or would it be about some program that we put together, something that makes young people feel proud of what they do and what they've achieved, and they don't want to go down a negative pathway? But the leadership and the ownership of that lies with us in this room. And it begins with us. And I'm delighted that I've got so many responsive faces here who really can work with us within the Violence Reduction Unit, within Greater Manchester Combined Authority, to say, right, how do we work together as partners to ensure that every young person has that opportunity of education and employment and understands if they don't get it right first time, there's a group of people around who will help to shape and mould that so that they can eventually get it right. And that applies to everyone, especially those with special needs, those who are neurodiverse, and those who find it really difficult to engage. So that's me in a nutshell. I hope that was a suitable fireside chat. Nick, all I would say is you've got an absolutely wonderful bedside manner. And as I sat there, suffering as I do from sleep deprivation, I was just wondering whether or not you'd come and tell me a story.
Definitely. So we've actually got a little bit of minus time now. But I wonder if we might use a tiny bit of that minus time, because I know the next thing is a call to action. But actually, I think in what you've both said, implanted in that, there's actually quite a few some specifics and some more general calls to action. But let me just open up for a moment in case there's some thoughts or questions that people might like to raise that help us segue into that call for action.
I think just like as a young person, obviously, who's just transitioned into college, I think something that was really hard and a lot of my friends struggled with was kind of like, I remember one of my friends said to me the other week, she was like, it's just not fair. Like I've not had the opportunities that other people have. And she works so hard, but it's like a lot of the time I know in school, like A-levels was the only thing that was introduced to me. And actually I take a BTEC now and I find that works better for me, but it wasn't introduced to me. Like things like apprenticeships, BTECs weren't really recognised in that kind of way. So I think sometimes it can be really hard for young people to see a future with themselves in it when they can't see a kind of platform that fits them. And obviously as well, new things being developed and they need to continue developing because it still isn't like one thing fits all. You can't fit a circle into a square. Like it depends. Same with like the neurodiverse thing. Obviously, like I'm neurodiverse myself and it's been very much like swept under the rug a bit because it was kind of like it wasn't visible. So I think a lot of the time the barriers too is the case of the people in the middle ground also. So it's not like they're like visibly struggling, but equally they may be high achievers. They may be people who kind of look like they're having it all together. Whereas actually I think it's very important to cover that middle ground too, because it goes very much unnoticed, especially in education. I think like a lot of my friends weren't noticed because they were just getting on with it, getting good grades, like kind of going on to the next thing, whereas actually they weren't given the time to kind of develop further, which is a lot of the time I think why people can kind of fall into other things, because it's not recognised in that kind of way early on. But that was just, a thought that I had about that.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing that with all of us. We don't do enough for young people with specific needs. We know we don't do enough. Their attendance levels are well below the national average. Youngsters with special needs are more likely to end up being excluded. But I run a sort of 5-word mantra. The first bit is actually I want young people to belong. If they belong, they're more likely to feel safe. If they're safe, they're more likely to attend. But if you're safe, you're belonging and you attend, and you end up with a curriculum that's not relevant, how are you going to engage? So your voice is a powerful voice, as is the employer's, a really powerful voice. And this is a call for action. What do we do for young people like this young lady here? Very, very articulate, who's very willing to talk about what it means to be a learner now. But we're looking for people's opinion. And the other thing is this. You can't just say it's down to luck or chance. I grew up in care. I went through successions of foster parents and I just got lucky. But now I don't call it luck because I don't think it can be a lottery. And so we need to listen to what you're saying and we need to construct something. And one of the great things about Phil East is I love working with him. I can say to Phil, right, look, we've got this issue, we've got this problem. And he looks at me and says, Antony, don't worry, we can sort it. And it's the word we that I love about Phil, because it's a team thing. It's not a single person.
So I know that we're really on minus time now, and there's lots of things that I would like to say to you, Naya, and we've not got the time. So I would love, if you don't mind, when it's lunchtime, for us to have a little chat, because I think what you've just said is you're happy on the course that you're doing now, but maybe those opportunities weren't kind of explained to your friends. And I feel confident in college that there's lots of things that you will do over the next 2 years. Are you doing the BTEC dance? That you will be so ready for your next steps. And we've obviously not got time to go through them, but I would love to have a conversation with you if we can. Thank you.
Lovely. And so I will wrap it up at this point, partly on the call to action from us as well, which is that certainly for universities, we call ourselves lecturers and we specialise in talking at other people. And what I'm really picking up from both of you is that listening is primarily what we need to be doing. And I think that's exactly right. And Antony, you mentioned the curriculum and assessment review that's going on across the whole of England at the moment. And I'm one of the panel members on that. And we've got the call for evidence out. Right at the moment, we're going to be running sessions here in Greater Manchester. And it's a real opportunity, I think, to get social mobility right into the heart of that and the sorts of skills, both technical and academic, and enabling students to move between pathways appropriately. There's a real opportunity right now to do that. So there's that big listening event we can take advantage of. Right, I had better stop now because people are twitching in the audience, but thank you so much. And thank you to Antony and to Kimberley.
A huge thanks to Nick, Kimberley and Antony for sharing their thoughts and perspectives with us. Well, we've given you loads to think about this morning. Hopefully we've inspired you and motivated you to be part of a movement of change with and for young people in Greater Manchester. You've sat and listened so well and for so long. You certainly earned your lunch. But before we open the buffet, we need to seal the deal in terms of what you can do practically to help us reach and support more young people. So, to share some closing thoughts, please welcome back to the stage the CEO of Salford Foundation, Phil East.
Thank you both. I'm conscious we are over time. You're hungry, I'm hungry. We'll be as quick as we can. I did want to, though, firstly, just add my kind of thanks to Mia and Ayaan for what they've done today. Wow, what amazing young people, what confidence. There's been so much going on today and they've provided an amazing kind of golden thread weaving it all together. You know, if medicine doesn't work out, if, musical theatre isn't for you, I think you've made quite a pitch for a job in continuity here at the BBC today as well. We've heard loads about social mobility from so many different angles today. We've explored the art of the possible, and I think we've established the imperative that we all need to lean in even more keenly and do what we can to enable and enhance our young people's futures in work. And again, I think we've established the two big components there are education and business. But the two need to interface together effectively if we're going to maximise our collective efforts. And actually, that interface isn't always that easy to navigate or catalyse in spite of our best intentions. I think to do that, we just need a vehicle, a simple bit of infrastructure, which makes that eminently doable. And hopefully today we've demonstrated to you that in Greater Manchester, Salford Foundation is and can be a significant part of that infrastructure. I don't know about you, but I need a bit of strive in my life. I think the most boring phrase in the corporate lexicon is business as usual. Who needs business as usual in their life? We want to do more, we want to do better, we want to do it yesterday, to be honest. And for us, the demand side of that equation is not a problem. Schools, other kind of institutions are banging our door down to say, can we do this? Get more businesses in front of us, connect our young people better into their opportunities. Our problem is the supply side. It's time, it's resources, it's funding. You know, a lot of what we've seen today, it needs a lot of people, a lot of bodies in a room to run, for instance, a mock interview session with a cohort of 150 kids. Can we not only just allow people to do that? Can we actually do it a bit more strategically, like some of our companies do, and not just provide the opportunity, but to say, that's our charity partner, let's try really hard to put our time and effort into that company. Could it be resources, gifts in kind, pro bono support, which enables us to develop particular kind of products or opportunities? Venues like the BBC have provided for us today, really, really helpful for us. And then there's always money. Money does make things happen. We're hugely grateful to people like BNY, to JD Sports, who, you know, fund us at some scale to, to enable major programs to happen. There is always a danger of a conference like today. We get dead excited, we get giddy, but we go home, we go to the pub tonight, we get back to work on Monday. It's tough, you know, in terms of doing the day job. I want to really, really try not to let you off the hook today. I would encourage you to think not just about you and your company, think about your networks. Who are your suppliers, your customers, your clients, your wider business networks, which you could always also introduce us to? How do we make this tent even bigger? On that introductory film, we saw that we helped 8,901 young people last year connect to their future in the world of work. Let's be ambitious. What if we doubled that? You know, what if we put 500% on that by 2027? I'm sure you're ambitious for yourself, for your personal growth and career, and for your business. My call to action is let's be equally ambitious for the growth and development of our young people. Let's be ambitious about social justice and ensuring that nobody is left behind. And with our collective commitment and that of our wider network of people you can pull in to be part of this journey, I'm sure that the future of young people and the future of work is safe in our hands. Thank you very much.
Well, I think that's a wrap. Thanks to all the speakers and everyone else who's contributed to such a fantastic programme.
Thanks to all of you for making time in your busy schedules to be with us this morning.
Thanks to the BBC for hosting the conference and to Morgan Sindel, who has sponsored lunch and our refreshments.
Plenty of Salford Foundation staff are here if you want to discuss anything further over lunch. There's time now for you to network and enjoy some food.
Lunch is served and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.